Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and this is another edition of No Capes, where I talk about comics that don't have anything to do with superheroes, and Ethan doesn't review along with me. First off, I'm going to talk about The Massive, number 2. First thing I want to talk about is some people have been confused by whether or not this is a mini-series or an ongoing. It is an ongoing, that where it says Part 2 of 3 Landfall. And then HK for Hong Kong. Landfall is the name of the arc. Typically, Brian Woods will write arcs. He titles the arcs, and so that's why it's part 3. Next issue will tie up this arc, but it's most certainly an ongoing title, and I have to say I'm very happy about that. I really enjoy this book. It's got a lot of reading in it. I mean, if you're afraid of reading, then maybe this isn't the book for you. It shows us more of what has happened, and a little more of where these characters come from. It gives us some backstory about when they were in Hong Kong after the water rose so much, and about how they rebuilt the place and their appreciation of the rebuilding of the place. Our captain and his first mate get attacked by muggers. It kind of goes to show how tough Mary is, that she gets shot. Mary? I want to say her name is Mary. That may not be right. She gets shot with a tear gas or a stun bullet or something like that, and still manages to save the captain and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think this is really interesting. It's really suspenseful. It's got a this mystery that's going on as they're hunting the Massive. And they haven't found it yet. There's all these other things going on. I don't have a problem with the whole tease of the Massive of them hunting. I think that's gonna be a long-term thing. I've heard some people say that, well, we got to find it at some point. Otherwise, pretty soon, if they tease that out too long, it's not going to be a very good book. I beg to differ. You could search for the Holy Grail for a very, very long time and tell lots and lots of stories before you ever reach it, and it'd be quite enjoyable. So I have no problem with that. I like Brian Woods' when he writes this sort of thing, where it's definitely him telling some sort of vision that he has. I'm reading some of his other books, and I by far feel like this is the strongest and has the most interesting voice in it. So I'm quite happy to continue to read it. I really enjoy the art. The clean lines are fabulous. I like the dystopic, is that a word? Coloring in it. The dim images, the lighting on the cabins, and that sort of thing. Anyway, really quite enjoying this. I'm not sure exactly how to explain the book for people who haven't started picking it up yet. We're only on issue 2, so it wouldn't be too hard to go back and pick up the issues that are involved with this. It has to do with eco-terrorism. It has to do with the economies and a massive ecological disaster happening all over the world. How does everything deal with that? How do basically the equivalent of Greenpeace? How do they deal with the fact that that everything they're trying to save has gone to crap? Well, we're starting to see that in some degree. Well, it's gone to crap, but then the world is kind of healing itself in its own way and whatnot, and maybe the next time around it can be better than what it is. And then on a more personal level, for the characters involved with this, if you're a pacifist, you've given up mercenary work, you've given up the violence, and that being the answer to how to deal with ecological disasters and the people who help cause them and that sort of thing. How do you deal with being a pacifist in a lawless world to a large degree? There's a lot of places where it's very lawless, and how do you deal with those threats? Anyway, really enjoying the book. I suggest picking it up if you like that sort of thing. Next, I'm going to talk about Revival. The last issue was a Dark Horse book. This is a Image title, Revival. First issue, this is issue number 1. Love this cover. Really, really enjoying this book also. I think that this issue had a really great setup in it. There's only one point in the issue that, I don't know, I kind of saw it coming, but that's okay. Who's some of the revivalists, the people who've come back from the dead. I can guess who one of them was. But there's some great scenes in this. The scene with the teeth all over the barn, that was awesome. I love that whole thing. The murdered Zorse in here that kind of starts out some of this stuff. That's fabulous too. The Hmong that are in Wisconsin. Obviously, the writer is from this area. He understands it and whatnot. I have a lot of family that has lived or lives in Wisconsin in kind of this area and kind of this environment. So it's kind of fun for me on that level too. If you like kind of this, don't use zombie when talking about this book, because it has nothing to do with zombies. These people don't come back as zombies. You can call them undead maybe, but you certainly can't call them zombies because they're not zombies. It's going to be a story about how you deal with that, how you deal with relationships with people who have died, and how do you deal with death or not death. How does that happen? It's going to be interesting. And then there's the whole quarantine thing, the cabin fever stuff, as they're all locked in this county and can't leave it because it's happening here. We're going to get some government stuff going on, I'm sure, at some point, because the CDC is obviously going to be involved. But I think this was a good setup. The art is sharp on it. There's lots of girls with freckles in it, and that's always a win as far as I'm concerned. Number 1 issue. Pick it up. I think it's going to be a really, really fun read. Next up, I'm going to talk about another Image comic. I'm going to talk about Creator-Owned Heroes, issue 2. This is the second of our stories about this Trigger 6 girl and American Muscle. The book is $4. There's actually 22 pages of story, 11 pages between the two stories that are in this, and then I haven't counted. Excuse me, that was rude. I haven't counted how many pages there are of like interviews. This one has an interview of Paul Pope in it. There's an interview with a kind of alternative fitness trainer in this. There's all of the creators that are in this do some more writing in it to talk about what they have going on and that sort of thing. Let's talk about the stories first. Trigger Girl 6 is still relatively interesting. Sorry, I'm distracted by the hummingbirds. A bunch of hummingbirds on my trumpeter line. And they keep whizzing past me. And it's kind of unnerving. Anyway, it's an interesting story. Our main character, we don't know a lot about her. It seems to be that she's out to try and take out the president. She gets captured in this one after she annihilates a bunch more stuff. She's like some super elite assassin. So there is some interest in here. I'm enjoying that story. Phil Alta's art obviously is pretty cool stuff. The American Muscle story, last issue, I really enjoyed it. I actually liked it better than the Trigger 6 story. This time around, it felt like it kind of just repeated itself. It basically stated the same stuff it stated in the first issue. They're kind of lost out here. They need to find someplace to go, and that's what it spent 11 pages in. So I was kind of disappointed with that. The interview stuff and whatnot in it, I don't know. I can pick up most of this kind of stuff off the internet. Yeah, I can't directly get the Paul Pope interview, but I know there are Paul Pope interviews out there, and if you pay attention to him on Twitter and some of the other places that he posts stuff and whatnot, you can find out most of this information that's in here. Most of these guys use the social networks well enough that most of this stuff that's in here you can find out from them. So I don't know that I need to be paying for that. Okay, so let's go back to it's $4 for 22 pages, and I don't know that it's worth that price tag because all that extra back stuff in there, whereas it's okay. I guess I just don't feel the need for a comic book magazine. I'm coming to that sense. I kind of talked about the last time I reviewed this, that it's not something that I'm that interested in, because if I'm really interested in these people, which a lot of them I am, I seek out the stuff and read it. I don't, I guess I don't necessarily need it in this form. So far, a lot of that stuff hasn't really captured my interest a whole bunch. But the stories are still interesting. I am going to pick up a couple more issues because I at least want to finish out reading about these two stories that are going on. At least the Trigger Girl 6 story, and then I don't know if I'll keep picking it up because I don't know that, like I said, that I want to pay the $4 for it when a lot of what's there I'm either not that interested in, or I can find it someplace else. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about a Virgo title. This is Saucer County number 5. And there on the cover we have our therapist and the governor presidential hopeful. They do meet. He puts her under hypnosis. The plan is to have her lie while she's under hypnosis. The therapist's plan is he signed of course, a statement saying that he wouldn't disclose anything. But of course, he then immediately turns around and calls his conspiracy buddies and says, "Screw that. I don't care if they sue me. This is going to be the smoking gun that the government has been hiding, alien abductions all this time, and we're going to bust this thing wide open." Well, under therapy, she does manage to lie about what happened through the whole thing, but at the same time, she also actually sees more of what we think possibly really happened to her actual abduction and that sort of stuff. And the politics that are involved in it is just continue to get interesting as the people who are around the governor work to try and make sure that they've got the right spin in place. But they basically end this thing with him recording her, and the recording being basically worthless. And then basically kind of telling her, "Oh, look, you've got this thing. You're so desperate for me to see stuff that I think it kind of shows you that you're a quack." So they hope that they've basically neutered this guy so he can't use anything against them and wreck her campaign. Of course, he's still working with the conspiracist people, and they can't use that information, they don't think, but they think they've got another way to get at her. So we're hopefully in the next couple issues, we're going to find out what that is, how they're going to get at her. And she's got a battle plan as she goes on the road to start her campaign. Her campaign is going to basically travel to the places that these extra abductions have happened, and there's more information out there. And she's going to use her campaign basically as a front for them to be doing their kind of research to try and figure out what's going on in these whole abductions and whatnot. Still really, really liking this book. I love the art in it. It's continuing to move forward at a nice pace, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. Lastly, we'll talk about Saga, which I'm reviewing this early than what I normally do. I'm normally a couple weeks behind on my comics because I get my comics every 2 weeks. I actually went to the store and purchased this, even though I have a copy coming in the mail, because I wanted to read it right away, because I knew I was going to be doing some talking about it on some video podcasts with the rest of the guys on the Comic Talk podcast. So I wanted to make sure I read it beforehand. I'm just like just about everybody else who's still reading this book, who didn't get scared away with the last issue of the Sextillion and all the creepy stuff that went on there. Absolutely loving this book. it's so much has to do with relationships. That's really what this book is about. Everything that goes on in here is based on a relationship with somebody else, whether it be our two star-crossed lovers and their baby and dealing with that, or it has to do with Prince 4 here. In this issue, he finds out that his wife, girlfriend, whatever she is, the prince, she's pregnant. That's going to be really interesting. That plays on how he reacts to things in this. He ends up, I won't spoil this part, he ends up killing one of the characters. One of the characters we've already been shown and talked about and stuff. He ends up killing her, and, well, I kind of spoiled it there, didn't I? As it's happening, a baby rattle flashes across his screen, so you get the impression that it's a panic of, oh my gosh, I have to make sure I live through this because I got to see my child, or something along those lines. We can read a lot into that. There's the Will and the Stock, their relationship. Poor Will is trying to get out of Sextillion with this small little girl that he thinks is just screwed up why she's where she's at. He wants to try and leave the place without a big massive fight. He finds out that to just like buy the girl to get her freedom, she's more expensive than his ship is. But just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. The art is fabulous. The production on this thing is so great. It's just pretty much all around amazing, and I'm excellent book. This is gonna be those books that I think it's gonna be a long term, critically acclaimed kind of a deal. If Fiona Staples doesn't suddenly end up with some awards coming out this next year around this book, that means there's some awesome books out there for her to get robbed from some of that stuff. At any rate, fabulous. When this thing starts coming out in trade, I'll probably pick it up in trade so I can read it in trade also, and I normally don't go buy stuff in trade if I already own the singles. Anyway, that's it for this time around. I'm really enjoying reading my No Cape comics. I'm hoping you're enjoying reading some of them too, because the comics are an amazing thing. You can tell a lot of incredible stories that have nothing to do with superheroes. Anyway, have a good one.